here? Okay. Okay, so welcome everybody. It's nice to see that we have a fullish house. So today we're going to be looking at paragraph 20. And paragraph 20 is really the end, it's the last part of this meditation, this Isbonanut that we've been doing about the light of how the light works in a particular way, going from Atzilut to Bia. And then the rest of the chapter, or the next subject, is how the light works coming from into Atzilut, from the emanator. So we're really closing off something that we began many weeks ago. And we'll see how, once we have this whole picture, it really closes off like the subject matter within this paragraph. Okay. Mila, you want to
Yes,
say
okay.
hi?
So Baruch Hashem, we learned about, up until now, we learned about 4 mashalim, right? We learned about sun, the light of the sun, the way it emerges from the sun. We also learned about the light of the candle. And paragraph 18, 19 pretty much took us on a whole back and forth comparison between these two lights. And the way we understand that there is concept of Or Yashar and Or Chazer. Or Yashar shines just because it wants to shine. And Or Chazer is really a returning light. It's returning based on our effort. Okay, this is the Or of the Malchus and Or of the Zer Anpi, the Midas of Atzilus. Then before that, we also learned about Chayus and Koach. And in the Chayus, we had a mashal of the way the soul enlivens the body. Okay. And we also learned that it's done through 3 different kalim. Who remembers that? Inner kalim, intermediary kalim, and external kalim. Okay, and that was very important for us to understand how is Chayus actually gives life force to the body. It's through the nerves, arteries, and capillaries. Then we also learned about koach, right? Koach was this individual power. Chayus was more general, and the koach was more individual. And that's where the creation actually crystallizes itself, right? That's where the creation is on the level of koach. So now we're going to go into like a conclusive part of these 4 mashalim. And this is to understand that also in the level of Chayus, just like in the level of Or, there are 2 lights, Or Yashar and Or Chazer, right? Also in the level of Chayus, there are 2 levels, which are Ratzo and Shov. And if you parallel them, they're very similar, right? There's a Ratzo and Shov, but it's actually working in the opposite because Or Yashar was going up, down, and Or Chazer going back up or coming down as a result of my effort going up. Ratzo with Shov is exactly the opposite. Ratzo is up and Shov is down. Okay, but just understanding the pulse of creation, right? That the Chayus, the life force, goes not just in a continuous way, right? Like the sunshine. The sunshine just shines. You're up to me, you're not up to me. I'm just giving. I'm not taking anything in return. But in the level of Chayus, we see that there is this pulse constantly happens within the creation, as pulse constantly happens within our hearts, right? There's always that life force going up and down, Okay, so let's go to our text, this paragraph 20, and we're going to read what Rabbi Hillel has to say about that. Okay, everybody could see.
Can you make it a bit bigger?
I could try, yes. I'm not sure.
You can do it where it says 100%, you can make it more than 100%.
Oh, okay, I see that. Is it better or bigger?
Yeah.
Like that?
Yeah.
150. Okay, great. Okay, let's go. ועוד יש לומר שגם בבחינס שפע חיוס האילומos יש base b'chines or canal, right? And it may also be said that even within the flow of the life force, which is chayus, to the world, there are two levels of light, as mentioned above. Hainu, al pi hamavur lemala, bebchinas chayus ha'olamos, muchrach liyos kederech ratzu v'shoiv. Which means that according to what was explained above, that the life force of chayus of the world must be the matter of ratzu v'shoiv, running and returning. Kumo barak hamavrik, like a flash of lightning. Shetekef shemidgale bebechinas mitzias devar ma, that immediately when it becomes revealed as some form of existence, zeu nichshav lepirut v'havdola ktsat mimakoyrei. This is already considered somewhat of a separation and distinction from its source, right? Its source is dark, dark sky, and then we see lightning is coming out. It's kind of a deviation, right? A separation, distinction from its source. And therefore, it does not, it has not true independent existence. Right? And it must become nullified back into its source. But in the nimshal, in the godly light, ein habitul, okay, bitul gomor kmo b'mashal, right? The bitul, it's not a complete bitul. It's not a total bitul, as in the mashal. What does this mean? In the mashal, he completely stops existing. It's a new Metzias. But in the nimshal, it's not a full stop. It's not a full evaporation and a new world coming down. It's not like that. So what is it? She'im kain, and if so, if it would be so, every single moment that would completely vanish into nothingness, legamre, in a complete way, and in the new flow would bring about entire different worlds. But this is not so, okay? So therefore, what happens? Let's see. I'm sorry, I'm just trying to pick it up. Okay. And truly, it's not so. Only the life force, the chayus, is renewed. Okay. And since it's not a complete new existence coming down, therefore we must say that in the nimshal, meaning in the godly light, there is a power that unites ratzu v'shuv. Right? Since it's not a new world coming down every single moment, we must say there got to be a power that unites ratzu and shuv, meaning they are not totally disconnected. So the power that unifies them, or, this is the aspect of light, shu or shimshu ilah, that this is the light of the supernal sun of Zer Anpin canal, as it was discussed, as it was mentioned above, right? So don't get thrown back by this fancy name called Shimsha Ilah. It's like supernal sun, right? We spoke already about Zer Anpin. We know exactly what that means, okay? And it's a mashal of the sun that shines. So he uses that, in this Kabbalistic wording that is called supernal sun.
Mila, Mila,
Yes.
I, can we stop there? And can you just summarize so that we don't get lost going forward, just to make sure
Sure.
everybody understands what is the question and what is it that we're discussing going forward? And why did
So
he
I
put
don't know if there is no questions. He's just saying that Chayus has two aspects to it, which is Ratzu and Shoy.
okay.
That is very simple, right? Now, it's not a complete Ratzu, okay? Meaning it's not that, the world vanishes into nothingness and then a new world comes back out. It's only the Chayus, the life force, is being renewed. And if so, it's the same world coming down in a renewed state.
But what does it mean that only the life force is renewed as opposed to what?
As
What could
opposed to a new world, a new set of world, a new light is coming down, a new everything is coming down. Okay, you're not Naria anymore. You understand? That's it. We need to name you again because you're going to be this new entity being born every single time. You understand? And
yes,
therefore,
the life force is new though. That's what
not
they
necessarily because the Kalim are still there. This is not new Kalim are being born. Do you understand? It's a life force of it. The energy of it is new. It's a renewed energy that's being born.
okay.
It's like
And
oxygenated.
we could say that, yeah, but I mean, again, it's not a new light that's being born. You understand? There are times when Hashem sent us a new light. That's why we call it Or Chadash. Okay, that's on the level of Chayus, and obviously drags Koach with it, right? Because there's no, you know. You remember when we were talking about Or Yashar and Or Choser, we were talking about all these renewal processes in the light. Okay? The Or of Toe is being triggered through the Kilyon of the Malchus and all that. So we were going and discussing all the new situations that happen in the realm of light. And then, if you remember, there was a sentence, but nothing gets renewed in Achayus and in Koach. Who remembers that?
Right.
And in Achayus and Koach, we don't get that new renewal. Remember that? And we were like, what do you exactly mean? We didn't know that mean. Now he's telling us, on the Koach, we also get renewal, but it's not like mamash and new, like when it's a new light coming down. It's just that the light force going back and forth.
So if I remember correctly, the Ratzah and Shov of the Chayas was that it was going to the light and bringing it back down to the Koach. It was like a mamutza between the Or and the Koach. Is that
Exactly?
Correct? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so now I mean, personally, now I understand what he's saying. It's like you're saying that in the light, there's real renewal, but in the Chayas, there's this Ratzah and Vushov, which is
Kind of carrying, meaning we're gonna bringing the koach into the light and bringing it back. You understand what I mean? Like there is an energy that happens in the brain. That's where the true changes, unthinkable changes could happen.
right.
Would
But
you
on the
say
level of
it's like
koach, I'm sorry, on the level of chayus, it's a renewal of the same energy. So it's like a trickle effect. Through the level of light, we bring a certain reality in, okay? And then we renew the rest into that reality.
Right.
Do you understand? If you
So
want a new light, don't bother yourself with chayes and koach. Bring in the new light through the avodah of either study Torah, of doing the mitzvahs, you understand? That's where the new hamshach of the light is going to come. From the level of tohu and all that stuff, and you understand? That's where you get the merit to bring the light, a new light come in, or chadash. But now we're talking about the chayus. The chayus is he needs to be renewed because it cannot exist on its own. Because you remember, the chayus and koach cannot exist without the light.
So
okay, so that's why it needs to be renewed constantly within the light. And exactly like, where is he getting the power from? The power is first from the Malchus of Atzilus, which is the light, right? And even higher than the Malchus of Atzilus, which is the Zon.
Okay.
The one that, unites this power of Ratzu.
So now he says that there must be a power that unites the Ratzo V'Shov, because otherwise there would be a complete renewal. Like it prevents the Ratzo from just kind of disappearing. It kind of brings it back in that way. And so he says it's our Enpin. He doesn't explain why.
No.
He just says that's what it is.
Mm-hmm. Because why would it be something higher than that? Because something higher than that would be, already the world of Tov. You understand? Meaning the chayus get renewed within the realm of Atzilus.
So it's still going very high still.
Oh, very, very high. I mean, come on, let's not, even Bria is a very high level.
No,
right.
of course.
Right.
All right. Okay, so I'm a bit more with you than I was. So
is what's coming an explanation of how the highest gets, like you just said, that if you want a new light, then that comes from learning Torah. So what so what is it that perpetuates the light in Ratzav V'Shuv, or is that what's coming?
There is
Is
no
that what
light.
we're going to learn now?
It's chayus. Because why? Like, because it cannot exist the same way like the lightning. You look at the lightning, it comes out, but it cannot sustain itself without being connected to its source. So it goes back in.
So
that's
my
what
question is,
perpetuates it.
if learning
Cannot
Torah and
exist.
doing
It's not
mitzvahs,
that.
if learning Torah, no, my question is, so
You're breaking up, Nechama. I cannot hear the full sentence.
So based on that, you said that if you want a new light, so learning Torah and doing mitzvahs brings a new light. Was that correct?
Yeah.
So what is it that perpetuates the chayus? If learning Torah and doing mitzvahs is bringing the new light, what perpetuates?
Bittul.
Bittul. Okay.
Right. So now the same thing is with organs.
The question of Chama, you said that the chayus is renewed in the Atzilus. What causes it to be renewed?
Okay, so we're going to learn it. It's the next sentence. Ach mihu hameorer or shimsha ilo lavo lidei hamshacha b'bchinas atzilus la'asois behem b'chinas kiyum hu b'chinas or choser de malchus. But who is that arouses the light of the supernal sun to come into the state of downward flow into the world so as to bring about their existence? It is the level of Or Choser, returning light of Malchus. Okay? That's not, it's not news. And who makes things happen in the house is the woman. Okay, so in the big binyan, in the big house, which is called this world, right? Who is the one who is, okay, yalla, let's go do this, let's do this, we need to do this, we need to do that, right? Otherwise, her husband is sitting and shining. That's it. He's like, no, we need to renew, Oh, I need to renew. Okay, no problem. I'm changing my frequency. Okay, for the renewal.
So it's the arousal from below.
Exactly. It's the arousal from below again. Okay. So she's the one who is triggering that flow of renewal to take place. V'hainu kefi hamavor lemala, right, as it is explained above. She'af al pi shebebchinas hiskalalus klalus hachayus b'makoyrei, right? Although the general inclusion of the life force of the chayus back in its source, who bebchinas malchus, the malchus of Atzilus, right? It truly happens in the malchus of Atzilus. If you remember, I believe Sarah, right, with Baruch Hashem, she asked that question. Why is that, right? That it was Malchus of Atzilus. I believe it's a paragraph 3 or 4, okay, which encloses itself in the inner vessel of Keser of Bria, Mikol Makom, but nevertheless, this is already Malchus on the descent. Remember, the Malchus has 2 powers, to be every single detail of creation and be part of everything. And then at the same time, she has this like, okay, I'm going up. Like, I'm not creating. I'm in Atzilus. Okay, so she has this 2 duality, being part of everything and Koach HaIsnasus to go up. Okay, so now we're not talking about only that level of Malchus of Atzilus, the way it becomes a part of, or creates, or includes itself in the vessel of Keser of Bria. Mikol Mokol Achar Kach. But afterwards, meaning they first include themselves in the Malchus of Atzilus, the way it's in the Bria, and then she pulls up. Okay, so she pulls up, mitkalalim be'ilu yoiser, in become included in a higher level, b'bchinas pnimius hamalchus, in the inner aspect of the Malchus, shehu b'chinas hamalchus, moshu b'bchinas Atzilus, which is the b'chinas of the Malchus, the way it is within the Atzilus. Okay, and when that happens, when she goes back into the Atzilus, okay, because you see, the renewal has to happen within the consciousness that happens in Atzilus, that the worlds are not separate entities. Do you understand? Because Atzilus has its own consciousness, Biyah has its own consciousness. What's the consciousness of the Biyah? All the way in the beginning of 3rd chapter, we said that it's Yehuda Tata, right? Yehuda Tata is the consciousness of the Biyah. That there are worlds exist, okay, and they're all connected to Hashem. In Atzilus, it's a different consciousness. There is nothing beyond Hashem, right? Yehuda Ilah is that they don't have the whoever lives in the world of Atzilus, they do not have their own self-existence, awareness of their own self-existence. You understand? They do not exist. Okay, the way the creation feels separate themselves from Hashem, but they are connected to Him. It's only the consciousness of the Biyah. Okay, so where the renewal would be happening? Just think logically. Where the renewal is going to take place, higher than that consciousness. You understand? That's just logical, no? Why would renewal happen in the Malchus of Atzilus the way it's coming down to create? Because there, the creations are separate from Hashem. The renewal has to happen in the consciousness that's higher than it. That's the Koach HaMeyached. That's what unites the 2 powers. Because you see, what unites the 2 powers is the higher consciousness than both of them. So if we're talking about creation, okay, that's going into the state of Ratzo, okay, into the Malchus of Atzilus, right? So that's a source. What connects them? What's Koach HaMeyached? It has to be the consciousness that's higher than both of them. The creation and the Malchus, which is what? Zoh. You got it? It's like we were learning in Kuntrus Eispilus, very similar thing is, you know, there is Kelim. We learned it in Shari Yichud also, right? There are Kelim Pnimim, and then there's Adam Pnimi Adam Chitzoni. Who remembers that? The inner Kelim, and then there is outer Kelim. And then there are intermediary Kelim. So he says there, this is intermediary Kelim are coming from a higher source than both of them. That's the only way how they could connect. which coming from the essence of the neshama. So what connects the neshama and the guf? How can the neshama and the guf be connected? Like it's just unlimited with the limited. It's impossible, right? But Hashem still makes it happen through what? Through the essence that higher than unlimited and higher than limited. Because each one of them have their own consciousness. The limited beings have their own consciousness. The unlimited being have their own consciousness. Amazing. So how are they going to get together? They need to have something that higher than both of them. It's like the same analogy is like, Michael and Gabriel, right? They're having, I don't know, argument, water and a fire. How in the world will they be united? Through Hashem, because that's a higher consciousness than both of them. So any uniting is higher than both of them. So we see the same structure here, right? So we're talking about Ratzo and Shov. Okay, the Ratzo is going up into the Malchus of Atzilus, right, and getting renewed. They get renewed and then they go back down. Amazing. So how can that happen? Through the power which is higher than both of them, which is what? Zoh. Okay, Zoh has the power to unite both of them because it's higher than Malchus of Atzilus and it's higher than the Biyah.
Zoh is an Atzilus. Zoh of
Zer
Atzilus.
Anpin, for sure. Zer Anpin of Atzilus, yes.
Of Atzilus.
For sure. We're talking about Zer Anpin of Atzilus. Because we're talking about Malchus of Atzilus, so that's what we're talking about, Zer Anpin of Atzilus, right?
So,
What is that?
so Mila, I have a practical question, if you don't mind. So if you're talking about that this renewal takes place in the higher consciousness, right? So what is our awareness of that higher consciousness that the renewal is taking place? Are we able to be aware of it?
I mean, truly, this is our super consciousness, right? These are the things happening beyond us. That's the creation of the world, right? I mean, we see a bird that's flying. She is in the full existence. She is included in this Ratz of a Shoif. I mean, how much brain she has to be aware of that? I don't think she's aware of that. She's just in the state of being. I'm flying, I'm good. Okay, so I don't know how much we could be aware of this, that's what's happening. How does it help a personal avodah? I guess, I don't know, like you don't feel like doing certain things, that the next minute things could change.
So it's not an awareness that it sounds like an awareness that comes when you put aside the thinking part of it.
You could. I mean, you could also think about it. There's nothing wrong with thinking about it.
Mm-hmm.
Going, tying to what Nechama is asking about the practical aspect. So the only way we could affect things is through Torah and mitzvot. Is that correct?
And also bittul. We didn't get there. Let's finish this sentence, right?
Leila, I'm just looking at some of the English translation. So sometimes that's what makes it a little bit difficult. So if I understand correctly, he's explaining how the Or Choser works. So he says at first, as if this is something that we've learned before, that really the Or Choser, the Chayos, goes back into its source to Malchus of Atzilus as it is in Keser of Bria. And then he says, Mikol Makom, afterwards, nevertheless, afterwards, they, what's the they here? It's becoming
Mikol Makom achar kach mitpalelim be'ilu yoser, meaning the creation. Who do you think we're talking about? We're talking about the created beings, they. It's Bria. Yitzira, Asiya, meaning the created beings. They are created beings in the world of Bria. They are created beings in the world of Yitzira. We, for some reason, think that they're created beings only in the world of Asiya. No. They are Malachim in the world of Bria, tons of them. Okay, so these creatures, right?
Where's it if it's referring back, then it's called, is it referring to the Chayos? I mean, why is suddenly they? Where I don't understand the pshat.
Because Chayos is what? Chayos of the Nivroim. He's talking about Nivroim. מכל
Okay.
מקום אחר כך נברואים מתקללים באילו יויסר בבחינת פנימיוס המלכוס. They're going into the pneumius amalchus. Okay.
Certainly there we should take out meaning Malchus as it is within Atzilus. It just says the inner dimension of Malchus as it is within Atzilus.
It is, that's what it is, exactly. Because it first gets mitkalalim, the nivroim mitkalalim in the malchus of Atzilus, the way it is in Keser of Bria. And then she pulls up. Okay, she pulls into the malchus, I'm sorry, into the world of Atzilus. She first includes them in her, the way she is in Keser of the Bria, and then she brings them up, okay, into the high consciousness, into the world of Atzilus. Okay, the way she is in the world of Atzilus. Aliyas klolis amalchus, right? And through this, the effect and the send. Who is they? The Nivraim. Okay, of the malchus, bebchina zoda Atzilus, right? Ascend to the general level of malchus into the zer anpin, into the zod. And this is very similar to the explanation of the flame of the candle. Remember what happens when she takes all the nivraim and she literally just burns them. What happens? More light it creates more light. What do you think fire does in a candle? She takes everything what you stuff it with and she burns it. You understand? And by doing so, what happens? She has more light, right? So the same thing is here. Where she gets this light from? We thought Malchus doesn't have anything on its own. What do you think she does? Where she gets this light from? From Zoh. Right? And through her awakening of the Zoh, now the Zoh gives Or Yashar. Now the Zoh gives the straight light. In all the worlds. Okay? So he's showing how this whole Ratz of Ashoiv, and he's merging it with all what we learn about the light as well, about Or Yashar and Or Chazer.
So then
Because
it begins to sound like the Ratzev Ashov is bringing down a new light, because it stimulates
by its renewal. Because you see, when it's just thus with the Malchus of Atzilus, with the way it is in Bria,
right.
But then when she pulls up, she triggers a new light. Okay, to come down to the world.
But are we saying to begin with that there's really only one source of light?
I feel like a walk when I was ready to go off and
There's always one source of light. It's Hashem. There's no
So that everything else is just a reuse or a renewal of the old light. You could say a repurposing or redirection or something. If there's only one source, then that's it.
Well,
But it looks different.
But there's always one source. There's no two gods, Chas v'shalom. There's only one source, right? But the expression of that light, it's something that you could change. That's why we keep saying
that's with the kalim.
What do you mean? No, also with the light. Why with the kalim? Kalim has nothing.
Look, it seems to me that what he's describing, maybe to speak to what Nacham is asking, is this is the Hishtalshalut. He's describing how one level activates the level above it. So he's going slowly. It's like eventually we're going to come to the source of the source. But right now we're talking about, Malchus of Atzilus and Zer Anpin of Atzilus being the source for the light that comes into Biyah. But after paragraph 20, we're going to talk about where the light of Atzilus comes from.
And again, remember that Atzilus the Bria, Yetzira, and Asiya, they don't have Metzias on their own. Remember when we were talking about Malach Gavriel, Malach Michael, and all these guys? Okay. Why do you think he's obsessed that the Or is the main thing and not the Kalim? Okay. Because he wants to show us the answer all the questions of the philosophers. Because the philosophers are the one who became the early platform for Avodah Zarah. Okay, why? Because they understood the duality. They understood that Hashem could create something and go drink his coffee without being constantly involved with every detail. They didn't think that he was a control freak. They thought it was like a nice gentleman. Let me create the world and go have a rest, But, they didn't know what we know. Okay, so that's how the whole Avodah Zarah, they did not deny the first cause. They just couldn't understand how he all the time involved. They thought like, okay, he gave power for light, the early Greek mythology, right? He gave power to Venus, and then they had few fights together, one overpowered the other one. And then there was, the power of love. There was the God of love, the God of hatred, the God of this, the God of that. And each one of them were independent beings. That's the key word here. The foundation of Avodah Zarah is independent being. Okay? The independence. And now what we are doing all along is learning that nothing is independent. Nothing. And there are so many interesting sikhs of the Rebbe where the Rebbe says even mistakes are not independent. There's no such a thing as a Jew could do a mistake. Everything is with a total authorship of Hashem. Okay? Nobody makes mistakes. Do you understand? It's like this whole, that's the consciousness of Atzilus. Everything is Hashem. And Hashem is everything. Okay? You see the difference? Everything is Hashem. That's Yichud Tata. Meaning there's everything, and you bring it back to Hashem. Okay, Yichud Ilah, Hashem is everything. You understand what I mean? In Yichud Tata, we are going from Chitzonius in. We see everything. Like I see my cup, I see this, I see that, I see my son outside trying to ring the bell and come in. And say, these are all everything. And then I connect it to Hashem. That's Yichud Tata. And that's very important. Remember, we're not skipping levels. That's very important. That's what we should be doing. Like 20 chapters, we do 20 paragraphs, we're doing this, okay? But then you come to a realization, the truth of Hashem, remember? Like it's Omek HaMusag, right? You're going through the details, you bring everything to Hashem, you look through the Mashalim, and then there's Omek HaMusag. Oh, you see the truth of Hashem. What happens when you see the truth of Hashem? From that perspective, you question your own existence. Do you exist? Do you understand? Once you start questioning your own existence, you're in the right place. You're in Atzilus. Because you cannot take selfie in Atzilus. Okay? Why? Because there's no selfie. You understand? There's no self. You cannot take selfie. What are you going to take selfie with? There's nothing there. Okay, so that's the state of ayin, right? Atzilus is a state of ayin. Remember the 4 levels? Yesh, ayin, ayin, yesh. Remember? So the world is the world of Chachma, is the ayin. Okay? The Ratzon and the Chachma are ayin, 2 states of ayin. And that's it. So then, that's why it's ayin. There's nothing there. So once you like questioning, your own existence, you're in the right place. Okay, over there, now Hashem becomes everything. So how do you know that you exist? because Hashem exists. As Rambam says, right? Is with the existence of God, everything else exists. And that's why in chapter 1, Reb Hillel brought the whole Rambam situation, halacha, from Rambam.
But with a high degree of bittul, do you exist less?
On the contrary, you exist more because all your
Okay.
functions exist. You don't exist less, you exist more. Because then you open up a room for Hashem to exist. Because when you don't have bittul, you're only one organ, screaming
Right.
out loud.
So
You
when the ego
understand?
shrinks,
Exactly.
when
When
the
the
ego
ego
shrinks.
disappears, you invite, like, you become, in a way, a vessel for Hashem. You understand?
Mila, it's really interesting what you talk about, that Chassidus says Hashem is everything and everything is Hashem. I I mean, not to digress too much, but I listened to a shiur where Nir Manusi, a really amazing Chabad teacher, explained how if you separate out everything is Hashem is everything from everything is Hashem, if you only have one or the other, they both are kind of paganism. The one is like the Hashem is everything, which is like Yehuda Tata, like you said. If you don't have the everything is Hashem is everything, you just have everything is Hashem. Then it's like paganism, that you just believe that there's God in nature. You only believe in nature. But on the other hand, if you only have like Yehuda Ilah, which is that God is everything, then you tend towards being like the Hindu kind of, or Buddhist, I'm not sure exactly, but the Eastern religions, where they just, cutting off from the desires, from the physical, and they saying just the spiritual is important. And in the West, it's the opposite, where it's just the Gashmiut. And I suddenly understood, I mean, it's a very detailed description, but I understood that why Reb Hillel is constantly emphasizing both of these aspects, the Yehuda Tata and the Yehuda Ilah, because this is the avodah of the Jew, is to bring both of these together, because it's very easy to have them separate. It's very easy to just believe in Gashmiut and live in Gashmiut, and it's very easy to just believe in Ruchniut and live in Ruchniut. But to bring the two together, that's like in the beginning of this chapter 3, he spoke about the Shema, how the Shema does that there's you going up and the coming down, going up and the coming down, that you're constantly connecting the upper worlds to the lower worlds. That when you go very high, there's this realization that Hashem is everything, and then you bring it down, Baruch Shem, Kavod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed, you then have that realization that yes, but Hashem is in all of the worlds. The way that he is above, so he is below. And this is part of like the drip irrigation that Reb Hillel is doing for us, slowly dripping these ideas into our heads, like how this can be true, how there's this constant yichud between the lower worlds, the physical worlds, and the upper worlds. And yeah, that's really part of what Judaism is doing all the time, is for making us make that connection. And the rest of the world doesn't do that very easily. All right, that's the end of this side. I mean, it's not so off topic, but.
So the idea that there are no mistakes, for me, what that brings forth is that free choice is really a paradox, or is it an illusion? Yet I'm struck by the fact that we're constantly guiding our children to make quote unquote good choices.
I'm not sure what point you're trying to make, Nechama.
Where does choice come into it?
There's
Um,
gradation. There's different levels of that. There's the levels where we choose where somewhere way up high we choose things, and yet when it comes down from up high, sometimes that's in the hands. It's in the hands of Hashem, but somewhere up, like it, there is a choice, like which direction you're going to invest yourself.
Look, over here, we're really still talking in the realm of consciousness. We're talking about shifting our consciousness. We're not talking yet about, the level of action. The Baruch Shem is just about bringing the level of high consciousness into the level of Yehuda Tata. And then he speaks about, if you look at those first 3 paragraphs of this chapter, then Vihafta and etc. becomes how it then manifests in your actions. But here, what we're talking about with Avodas HaMoichin is when you change your consciousness, so then your actions are going to follow your consciousness. So, the realm of choice, the way that I understand it, follows consciousness. And here with Avodas HaMoichin, we're saying, forget about your choice. Let's change your consciousness, and your actions will follow, because then you'll be more aligned with Hashem's Ratzon, and it'll be va'ahavta, that there'll be a consequence. And when you really have a shift in consciousness, which is the understanding of Shema and Baruch Shem, then you will come to love, and then your actions will follow that. Okay, I think we should continue, Mila.
Yeah, okay. That's a very nice discussion. It also gave me like a little, a couple of minutes to deal with my chaver here. Okay, everything is Ashgacha Pratis. V'zeu kedugmas kilyan de or haner, right? This is similar to the expiration of the flame of a candle. V'al yidei ze nimshach b'derech or yashar. Okay, and through this, there is drawn down in the manner of Or Yashar, the Or Yashar, like in the manner of Or Yashar, or Bechina Zo, the light, the direct light of Zo, Chol Olamais, in all the world. And through this, the union of Ratzu V'Shoiv is accomplished, etc. Understand as well, right? So meaning now, there is something to go home with. You got cash from Zo. Understand? You got the energy. So now you could go home and, use it. Use the energy of Zo. Okay? So like without that, and you got the energy of Zo in proportionate to your effort. Remember? The Zo gives in proportionately. With Malchus of Atzilus, you'll get your salary. Understand how much you worked, with the hours you worked, and how well you did your job. Even with the bonuses, it's still given with the Malchus of Atzilus. Now, Zoh will say, you know what? I just love you so much. I'm giving you so much. Okay, even if you didn't work, in the way of Or Yashar. Right, and as it's possible also to say that Srafim, right? So who are the Srafim? Now, look why all of a sudden, out of all types of malachim, he's talking about Srafim. Srafim comes from the word saraf. Saraf is burning. Okay? So he's not just giving us all kinds of malachim. He's talking about the Srafim, right? The Srafim, these are the burning malachim, that they say Kadesh, right? Zeu Hiskalelus Pnimi Kanal, which refers to the inner inclusion, as it was above mentioned. Shemitkalalim b'malchus d'Atzilus k'mo b'pchinas Atzilus, that they become included in the malchus of Atzilus the way it is in Atzilus, right? So they mamash vanish. That's the avodah of the Srafim. Ad shemitkalalim gam b'pchinas zay, to the point that they become included in the Zoi, bebchinas hamoichin shabai, way in Zoi, in the aspect of the moichin of the Zoi. Okay, so now we're going into the prat. Before we use the word Zo, right? But now the inclusion happens in the detail of the Zo, in the details of the Zo, right? Way in the detail of the Zo. Okay. Okay, just 1 second. I just have somebody here.
So the Srafim are in the world of Bria. They the Malachim that are in the world of Bria.
Are there malachim in the highest world, or do they just kind of dissipate?
I'm not sure. Let's see.
It says on
Yeah, I'm
Yom
sorry.
Kippur, don't go into Kodesh HaKodesh with a Kohen Gadol.
Only junk food, because when I ask you something food, you say no. What?
Okay. So hamitkalalim b'malchus da'atzilus k'moshe b'chinas da'atzilus, right? Asher mitkalim b'chinas zo. So now we're going way in zo moichin shabai, right? In the moichin that's in it. Hanim shachim b'chinas ima. So now where the zo is getting her moichin, his moichin. Am I right? Where your husband gets his brains from his mother, from your mother-in-law. Okay. Okay. So who affects you? I'm sorry for this, but this is like so beautiful, right? Everything is in Torah. Okay, where the guy, right, the Sof Atzilus gets his moichin from, it's from his mother, meaning the Bina, right? The Bina is the one that affects the moichin of the Zod. Guys, it's the second chapter of Shari Yichud, okay? Okay, and through this, the moichin of the zo is being drawn down from above to below. In the worlds, in the created worlds, from ayin to yesh, to unite the ratzu and shoiv and through this, the main existence of the world is okay. Badal. Right? And that's it. We're almost by the end. And it is known that there are 4 levels of the or. Do you agree with that or not? Okay. The godly light comes in 4 aspects. Through the chitzonius of the kalim. Now, remember this word. Okay. Through the chitzonius of the kalim. Okay, meaning the paradigm of Bi'ah comes through the chitzonius of the kalim. Okay? It comes through the Yud spheres of the chitzonius of kalim of Atzilus into Bi'ah, B'chinas or, Chayus and Koach. We know that, right? B'chinas or, Yesh Beis B'chinas or Yasher and or Chozer. And the or has 2 aspects, or Yasher and or Chozer. That's why there are 2 mashalim. Okay, and all this is being drawn down in a matter of essence and extension, right? Meaning there's essence and then the manifestation from that essence. But that, and it is enough to understand. So we are basically concluding the first part, which is the understanding of what it is, Yehuda Tata. This is Yehuda Tata. That's it. Okay. The 4 mashalim, 2 mashalim for the light, Then one mashal is for Chayus, and the third and the fourth mashal is Koach HaPoel B'Nifal, and that's the Koach. Okay? And that's basically it. And now we could, ask questions to see if that makes sense. It does not have to make sense. It's just a reality. I don't think, but I think it does make sense in terms of like how things manifest, in the world.
Mila, that's also how we get where the mother is, the Judaism comes from the mother because of her.
Exactly. Because there's a many Ma'amorim that discuss that the Atzam Neshama comes through Bina. Yeah, in Kabbalah, that's what it is. I mean, who makes the brain? It's the mother.
Mommy.
Yeah, you see, my mommy, she's saying
Is
she's
that
saying it.
is that also in the heart? I mean, I heard once that the Etzem Haneshama is in the heart. So is that being a Liba?
Exactly, for sure. I mean, come on. The first level is the first chapter is being a Liba, understanding that the essence. Neria, you take over. I'm going to mute myself because, my daughter is convinced that it's all mommy. That's it. It's mommy. But that's just
then
what
it was always,
she's revealing the secrets of Kabbalah.
but then I always gets back to the conundrum then, but in Chabad, we always say Moach Shalad Halev. So it sounds like the head is superior to the heart. But that's an old question.
So what I would suggest that we do actually is just take 15 minutes and review this paragraph for yourself. And then we'll see what questions you have. See if you can understand, based on everything that we've discussed. Take a look at the paragraph and read it through and try and understand it for yourself. And come up with questions that you might have. See if you can follow the flow of the. Do you need me to put it on the screen?
Yes.
Or
yes.
access? All right, let me see. Okay. I'm going to put it on the screen. I don't know how that can work exactly because we'd have to scroll down at some point. Here it is, the beginning of paragraph 20. I'll read it through as we go, and I mean, I'm to myself, and I don't start to scroll, and maybe it'll work with what people. Know how that happened. Okay, is everybody pretty much read it? Sarah, you done? Yoni?
I'm almost finished. I have I really would like to be to understand better about the inclusion of the Klalut HaChayut in its source in Malchut of Malchut Atzilut. That paragraph I really would like to understand better. That's where I am at now, trying to understand that.
Right.
It's not necessarily that it has to be explained again, it's just that it takes me time.
Yeah. No, it takes time. It's fine. I just want to see if people are, so then I'll give you some more time.
I'm sorry, I really do think that I need more explanation.
Okay.
These
So,
three sentences. Really, I'm really stuck over here. I don't know how
Okay.
everybody else is.
what this
Exactly
one-
where you're pointing. Exactly where you're pointing. These three paragraphs. והיינו מכל מקום ועל ידי זה פועלים.
Okay. So I'll try to explain, and Mila, if you can chime in as well, because I'm also trying to understand it. So we really learned this earlier on, which is maybe why it's a little bit difficult, Sarah. Maybe it's a part that you missed. So the life force here, this is explained above. It was explained previously. Although the general inclusion of the chayos back into its source, meaning what is this, where did the chayos go back into in order to bring down this ratzeh v'shov? There was a description earlier in one of the earlier paragraphs about how the chayot goes to the level higher than it to bring down new life force. So the chayot is like the intermediary between the koach, which is the end, and the light. So where did the chayos go? What was the ratzo and what was the shuv? So the shuv was to bringing a new chayot down to the level of koach. But where did it go up to? So it went up to malchus of Atzilus, as it was mitlabish, enclosed in keser of bria. So in other words, it's the lowest aspect of Atzilus manifesting in the highest level of bria. Okay. And he says, and this is the continuation of the sentence. Nevertheless, afterwards, they became included on a higher level in the inner dimension of Malchus, which is Kamoshe Bebechinas Atzilus. So in an even earlier paragraph, and many people might not remember this, the Reb Hillel described two levels of the way Malchus of Atzilus functions. So within Malchus of Atzilus, there's a part of Malchus that comes down into Buriya Yetzira Atzia, into Bia. But there's a part of Malchus that remains above. So Malchus has this double movement. It's Malchus as it is in Atzilut, and Malchus as it comes down into the other worlds. So he's saying here, that's what he's referring to when he says Malchus as it is within Atzilus. So this life force of Chayos goes up into Keser of Bria, the Malchus of Atzilus, as it's mitlavish in Keser of Bria, but it doesn't stop there. He's saying it goes higher to the inner dimension of Malchus as it is within Atzilus. And what does that mean within Atzilus? Well, what's higher than Malchus of Atzilus? It's Zer Anpin of Atzilus. It's the 7 midot. So, and through this, the English is not so great. Al yedei ze poalim aliyot klalut. So then they affect an ascent of the general level of Malchus into Zer Anpin of Atzilus. That's what it's saying. It's describing this process of the Chayos reaching into these higher dimensions.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you.
And he says this is similar to the exploration of the flame of a candle. I also have questions of my own, but I think that's basically on a pshat level what he's describing.
Thanks.
Is it going back into that place in order to be renewed, to get fresh?
So this is my question, because it seems like we were saying before that it's not going to those high levels, but look at the question. What is it that arouses the light of the sun of Zer Anpin to come into a state of downward flow into the worlds? As this, like, what stops the complete expiration? Like, what keeps the Ratzo and Shov connected? And he said it's the Zer Anpin, which is like the sun, right? So now he's explaining how that works. He's saying we really understood that the Chayos draws its light from the Keser of Bria, which has got Malchus of Atzilus in it. But he's saying actually then it becomes included even higher and draws something down from Zer Anpin. And then he goes into even more detail when he says, okay, the Srafim, which is answering earlier my question to Mila, is like, who are you talking about? So the Srafim are the Malachim in the world of Bria. They're the beings of Bria. So when we say Kadosh, 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 we say it's the Srafim who are saying Kadosh. So he says here, it's the inner inclusion, which we mentioned above, meaning this here, the inner, where did he say? The inner inclusion. So he's describing this process again, but in terms of the Srafim, like he gives us this is the way I understand it. He's giving us the general way that it works, and then he's giving us a specific example of how that works. So a seraph, which is like burns itself up, says kadosh, meaning it's going higher. Kadosh is always like separate, higher. That's when it's going into Malchus of Atzilus as it is in Atzilus, meaning Zer Anpin, until they become included in Zer Anpin. And then he gives us even more detail, and he says, within Zer Anpin, which we know are like the midot, so there's not only chesed of chesed, there's also the Chabad of Zer Anpin, the Mochin of Zer Anpin. He says it's going to that, the highest level within the Zer Anpin. Meaning he's taking us to the very edge, like higher level of Atzilus, just short of us of taking us into Chabad of Atzilus, right? He even mentions that. There's the Bina of Atzilus that is giving birth to the Mochin of Zer Anpin. It's
So
really
at,
explaining our brain, right?
so at what point in this process, like Mila said before, that I think that's what Mila said, and correct me if I'm wrong, that when we learn Torah, I don't know if it's Torah and mitzvah, so just learning Torah, we activate drawing down that the original light from Zeir Anpin. So where does that happen in this process?
So here he's not mentioning, Torah and mitzvahs specifically. That we were dealing with in the previous, in paragraph 18 and 19. Here he's really talking about the way that the chayot works. There he was talking about how the or works.
So I can see in the davening we say kadosh, kadosh, kadosh. So that are we reinforcing the seraphim when we actually say that in davening?
It seems like it. I mean, we talk about. Let me just check it. Yeah. We talk about the 3 levels of angels, which are, the angels in Bria, Yetzirah, and Atzir. The Orphanim, and the Chayot HaKadosh, with the mighty,
And it mentioned the seraphim.
towards the Seraphim. So they're these 3 levels going up. You have the Orphanim, the Chayot, and the Seraphim. And then they say, Baruch Kavod Hashem Mimkomo. So, and before that, it's Kadosh, Kadosh, Kadosh.
So is it in the davening? Is it the Shema?
It's before the Shema. Yeah.
I thought before that it's the actual saying of the Shema that brings the 2 levels, the 2 together.
I can't hear you, Nechama, you're breaking up. Not sure what you said.
I'm just looking back in my notes, but I thought that what Neil was saying before, that the Shema brings them together, the two levels, the of the Ratzav Veshuv and the Zeir Anpin.
Oh, no, I was talking, I don't know if Mila mentioned the Shema. I was talking about the Shema. He talks about it in the first 3 paragraphs of chapter 3, where there's the going up to the level of Yehuda Ilah, and then you bring it down with Baruch Shem to Yehuda Tat, and then down into action. How does it connect here? Look, what's interesting is that this is part of the preparation for Shema. Is all these melachim in the 3 worlds going upwards? The Ophanim, the Chayot, rise towards the Seraphim, and then and then we're going higher, and then you bring it down. Baruch Kavod Hashem Imkomo. So there's always this going up and coming down, going up and coming down, and this is what he's describing here: the Ratzah and the Shov, Ratzah and Shov, and he's explaining it to us. What he does very often is he'll tell us something in a general way, and then he repeats it with more details. And that's something that it takes a bit of time when you read it over and over again. You see, like, just to get the pshat of the paragraph sometimes, to see what he's doing. He's describing the same thing, but with new details. So before he didn't say this was the process of the Srafim. He's just describing the process. And now he describes it again, but adding the Srafim, saying Kadosh, and adding that it's the Moichin of Zera Anpin that it reaches. So he's expanding our mind slowly by doing it that way. I don't know if I'm answering all your questions here, but let's see.
Hashem is everything, and everything is Hashem, and that we need both. And it's the Shema that brings both together, connecting the upper worlds to the lower worlds.
Yeah, so that he dealt with in the first 3 paragraphs of this chapter, chapter 3.
Mhm.
And now what he's been doing is he's going into, a deeper, ever since paragraph 4, 5 of this chapter, what we've been doing is we've been doing a very detailed hitbonenut into Yehuda Tata, how Hashem's light functions in this world and how it gets connected back to its source in Malchus of Atzilus. That's all we've been looking at from paragraphs 4 till 20. And now that we've completed that, it's very useful to go back and have a look at that flow, because up until now we were kind of in the middle of it. But now if you go back and look at paragraphs 4 to 20, some of them read quite easily, some of them are a little bit more difficult, but he's really dealing with these four mashalim of the light, the 2 levels of light. The 2 levels of light is the sun and the candlelight, and then the chayas and the koach, and how they could connect back to Atzilus. And what is Yehuda Tata? Yehuda Tata is connecting the lower worlds of Bia, which is Beria, Yetzira, and Asiya, to their source in Atzilut. That's Yehuda Tata. Meaning we start off by really trying to understand the way that Hashem's light works in this world. And in general, it's called etzem v'hispashtut, that there's an essence and there's an expansion of the essence. And that's what we've been meditating on. We've been doing a detailed hitbonenut, like drip irrigation, dripping, 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 slowly, lots of details into our brain to understand the different ways in which Hashem works with these 4 mashalim. And now what we're going to do from paragraph 21 onwards, we're going to learn about the way that Atzilus works. Where does Atzilus get its light from? And we're going to learn that it functions in different ways to the way that Yehuda Tata functions. We're going to now do a detailed hitbonenut into Yehuda Ilah, which means where does Atzilut get its light from? Now, all of this, if you remember back to chapter 1, he did the whole of chapter 1 really to help us understand how our brain works as a mashal for what we're learning now. Because Atzilus and the worlds of Bia correspond to Chochmah and Bina in what we learned in chapter 1. And he describes this in the earlier paragraphs. So it's, it's all interconnected, and it's the beginning of doing a really detailed understanding of the histalshalut, how everything is connected. The lower is connected to the other, like chains linked together. And, we know these things in general. We know these general concepts, but it's very different when you learn them in the details, and also when you go over and over and over and break your brain to understand them, you'll see that your understanding of Hashem and how the world works and how Hashem is everything and everything is Hashem, it'll be in the details. Like it changes the way your brain thinks about them, because now you have a detailed understanding. But it's just about really going back and learning it again and again, because that's what changes one's consciousness slowly. Really, like Rabbi Kiva saw the water dripping on the rock. This is what Hitbonenut is. It's like drip, 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 drip. It's not, we get that he gives us the general concepts, but now he's giving it to us in detail. And if we try to understand it in a general way, so then, we'll understand it in a general way. But when you go into the details, then it begins to impact your brain. As we learned in chapter 2, actually.
Maria, I just want to ask you.
Yeah.
It says, like right at the beginning of paragraph 20, that there are 2 levels of light within Chayas. And then it speaks about Ratzah B'Shuv. Is that the 2 levels of light? So one is...
Yeah, that's a good question, because we had that question too. And it seems like we came to the conclusion that that's what he's meaning. He's not meaning that there are 2 levels of light, but there are just like within the light, there are 2 levels. There's the Or Choser and the Or Yashar, or there's, the sun and the candle. So he's saying there are 2 dimensions within the Chayos, which is the Ratzo and the Shov. Similar.
Okay, I just realized Bechinas also means aspects. It's like, It doesn't mean levels necessarily. Okay.
Yes. So they are, and what's interesting there is that when you can say, well, why is he even mentioning like it is in the light? But if you think about it, because we've just been speaking about the light before, the 2 aspects within the light, which are, this like sunlight, which is like the Ratzo, and the Shov, which is like the Or Yashan or Choser, which is kind of similar to the Ratzo and the Shov. There's the upper and the lower. So I think that's why he mentions it, just to create that parallel for us in our mind. So like before, so he's saying, you understood this kind of dynamic in the light, and we've spoken about it at length. Well, in the Chayos, you could say that there's also this dynamic of the up and the down, and the up and the down. And in a way, it's, as I'm saying this, it's like I'm realizing that he's trying to train our brain constantly to think like this, the up and the down. You go up and you bring it down. There's constantly this process of Ratzeh and Shov, or Yashar or Choser, Yehuda Tata, Yehuda Ilah. Because this is the job of a Jew, is to be linking these things constantly. It's not easy work. That's why not everybody is meant to do it. Like, that's our part. It's kind of like the middle line, it's like, it's easy, as I was saying earlier, to just believe it's all God, and people will sometimes say to you, people who are not religious, and I'm not making a political point here, but they'll be like, yeah, I believe, that God is everywhere. Or they'll be like, oh, I believe, that it's all about God. But integrating the 2 extremes, the God is up there and the God is down here, that's the Chidush.
I have a basic question. And you're talking about Yehuda Tata. So connecting Bia to its source in Atzilus. Is that Malchus of Atzilus?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
go back. You know what? Go back and have a look. Now that we have like a full picture of what is Yehuda Tata, go back to, the earlier paragraphs on the webs, on our Google Drive. What I started to do, let me see if I can pull it up. But I created, for myself, I was trying to see, let me see, outline of. Oh, okay. So here, I'll share this with you. Oops. No, I can't see. Okay. Sometimes when you're in the middle of the forest, you can't see where you are. So you need a map. So here, what I did, I did an outline to see, okay, paragraphs 1 to 4, this is what he's talking about. Then paragraph 5 to 10, this is what he's saying. Then paragraphs 11 to 13, he's very systematic. But it's like when we going through it the first time, it's kind of like trying to create a pathway in the forest. You don't know where you're going yet, and you can't see. You need to see from above, but first you have to arrive somewhere. So then paragraphs 14 to 16, there's another topic, and then it gets more detailed. I only did till 16. And I'll continue now that we've completed it. But you can have a look at this or make your own. I'm trying to see, I also did short summaries so that I could really, this was of each paragraph down to, where did I get to? Paragraph 17, no, 16, basically. Yeah. But sometimes you have to do that to be able to kind of get a bird's eye view of what is it he's trying to say. Because it's almost like, when we're in the middle of the chapter, it's like we're in the middle of a sentence. We don't yet know where it's landing. So now we've landed somewhere. It's like, okay, that's Yehuda Tata, paragraphs 5 to 20. So you can go back and read it through and see the flow. All right.
Thanks, Noe.
All right. Thank
Right.
you so much. And we'll see you next week. Good luck.